Artificial Neural Network Tutorial. Artificial Neural Network Tutorial provides basic and advanced concepts of ANS. Our Artificial Neural Network tutorial is developed for beginners as well as professions. The term artificial neural network refers to a biologically inspired subfield of artificial intelligence modeled after the brain. An artificial neural network is usually a computational network based on biological neural networks that construct the structure of the human brain. Similar to a human brain has neurons interconnected to each other, artificial neural networks also have neurons that are linked to each other in various layers of the networks. These neurons are known as nodes. Artificial Neural Network tutorial covers all the aspects related to the artificial neural network. In this tutorial, we will discuss ANS, adaptive resonance theory, Kohonen self-organizing map, building blocks, unsupervised learning, genetic algorithm, etc. What is artificial neural network? The term artificial neural network is derived from biological neural networks that develop the structure of a human brain. Similar to the human brain that has neurons interconnected to one another, artificial neural networks also have neurons that are interconnected to one another in various layers of the networks. These neurons are known as nodes. The given figure illustrates the typical diagram of biological neural network. The typical artificial neural network looks something like the given figure. Dendrites from biological neural network represent inputs in artificial neural networks, cell nucleus represents nodes, synapse represents weights, and axon represents output. Relationship between biological neural network and artificial neural network. An artificial neural network in the field of artificial intelligence where it attempts to mimic the network of neurons makes up a human brain so that computers will have an option to understand things. The artificial neural network is designed by programming computers to behave simply like interconnected brain cells. There are around 1,000 billion neurons in the human brain. Each neuron has an association point somewhere in the range of 1,000 and 100,000. In the human brain, data is stored in such a manner as to be distributed, and we can extract more than one piece of this data when necessary from our memory paralleling. We can say that the human brain is made up of incredibly amazing parallel processors. We can understand the artificial neural network with an example. Consider an example of a digital logic gate that takes an input and gives an output. Or gate, which takes two inputs. If one or both the inputs are on, then we get on an output. If both the inputs are off, then we get off an output. Here the output depends upon input. Our brain does not perform the same task. The outputs to inputs relationship keep changing because of the neurons in our brain, which are learning. Disadvantages of artificial neural network. Assurance of proper network structure. There is no particular guideline for determining the structure of artificial neural networks. The appropriate network structure is accomplished through experience, trial, and error. Unrecognized behavior of the network. It is the most significant issue of AN. When AN produces a testing solution, it does not provide insight concerning why and how. It decreases trust in the network. Hardware dependence. Artificial neural networks need processors with parallel processing power, as per their structure. Difficulty of showing the issue to the network. ANS can work with numerical data. Problems must be converted into numerical values before being introduced to AN. The presentation mechanism to be resolved here will directly impact the performance of the network. The duration of the network is unknown. How do artificial neural networks work? Artificial neural network can be best represented as a weighted directed graph, where the artificial neurons form the nodes. The association between the neuron's outputs and neuron inputs can be viewed as the directed edges with weights. The artificial neural network receives the input signal from the external source in the form of a pattern and image in the form of a vector. These inputs are then mathematically assigned by the notations xn for every n number of inputs. In general terms, these weights normally represent the strength of the interconnection between neurons inside the artificial neural network. If the weighted sum is equal to 0, then bias is added to make the output non-zero or something else to scale up to the system's response. Here the total of weighted inputs can be in the range of 0 to positive infinity. Here, to keep the response in the limits of the desired value, a certain maximum value is benchmarked, and the total of weighted inputs is passed through the activation function. There is a different kind of the activation function, but primarily either linear or nonlinear sets of functions. Some of the commonly used sets of activation functions are the binary, linear. Binary. In binary activation function, the output is either a 1 or a 0. If the net weighted input of neurons is more than 1, then the final output of the activation function is returned as 1 or else the output is returned as 0. Sigmoidal hyperbolic. The sigmoidal hyperbola function is generally seen as an S-shaped curve. Here the tan hyperbolic function is used to approximate output from the actual net input. Types of artificial neural network. There are various types of artificial neural networks depending upon the human brain neuron and network functions artificial neural network performs tasks. The majority of the artificial neural networks will have some similarities with a more complex biological partner and are very effective at their expected tasks. Feedback AN. In this type of AN, the output returns into the network to accomplish the best evolved results internally. As per the University of Massachusetts, Lowell Center for Atmospheric Research, the feedback networks feed information back into itself and are well suited to solve optimization issues. Feed-forward AN. Prerequisite. No specific expertise is needed as a prerequisite before starting this tutorial. Audience. Our artificial neural network tutorial is developed for beginners as well as professionals, to help them understand the basic concept of ANs. Problems. We assure you that you will not find any problem in this artificial neural network tutorial. Network. To understand the concept of the architecture of an artificial neural network, we have to understand what a neural network consists of. In order to define a neural network that consists of a large number of artificial neurons, which are termed units arranged in a sequence of layers. Let us look at various types of layers available in an artificial neural network. Artificial neural network primarily consists of 3 layers. Input layer. As the name suggests, it accepts inputs in several different formats provided by the programmer. Hidden layer. It performs all the calculations to find hidden features and patterns. Output layer. The input goes through a series of transformations using the hidden layer, which finally results in output that is conveyed using this layer. The artificial neural network takes input and computes the weighted sum of the inputs and includes a bias. It determines weighted total is passed as an input to an activation function to produce the output. Activation functions choose whether a node should fire or not. Only those who are fired make it to the output layer. There are distinctive activation functions available that can be applied upon the sort of task we are performing. Advantages of artificial neural network and parallel processing capability. Artificial neural networks have a numerical value that can perform more than one task simultaneously. Storing data on the entire network. Data that is used in traditional programming is stored on the whole network, not on a database. The disappearance of a couple of pieces of data in one place doesn't prevent the network from working. Capability to work with incomplete knowledge. After entraining, the information may produce output even with inadequate data. The loss of performance here relies upon the significance of missing data. Having a memory distribution. For N is to be able to adapt, it is important to determine the examples and to encourage the network according to the desired output by demonstrating these examples to the network. The succession of the network is directly proportional to the chosen instances, and if the event can't appear to the network in all its aspects, it can produce false output. Extortion of one or more cells of N does not prohibit it from generating output, and this feature makes the network fault tolerance. Disadvantages of artificial neural network.